Are you the quantum mechanics?
Yes, we are. The Quantum Mechanics, the paranormal podcast for the believers, the doubters, and everyone in between. I've got a development on my very specific poltergeist that we talked about last week.
Uh-huh.
So, if you've not heard last week's episode, I was saying I've got this weird poltergeist that seems whenever I buy an iPhone charger, it seems to mischievously take it away and disappear it somewhere.
Oh, yeah, and we were basically speculating that poltergeist is actually your teenage children.
Well, we were thinking that, and I'm with you, Ben. That is a good theory, but there's been a development.
Okay.
It's gone transdimensional, as in Ruth Roper Wild's transdimensional sausage.
Go on, what's happened?
So I bought a new charger.
Right.
Put it in the kitchen.
Okay.
Within an hour and a half, Ben.
No.
Hadn't even plugged my phone into it.
What?
And I came out of the kitchen and I was kind of, I love this phrase, effing and jeffing.
Of course.
Moaning my head off about the whole
Jeffrey,
thing.
yes.
And I went and kind of sulked in the lounge for a little bit. And I came back 10 minutes later and it was back.
Wait. So
it's either, well, I guess the skeptic, you skeptics would say, my daughter heard my effing and jeffing and brought it back.
Yeah.
Or, I like to believe, a bit like Ruth Roper Wild's story about the transdimensional sausage, I think that lead disappeared off into another dimension for about 10 or 15 minutes and then mysteriously came back.
But did you quiz the kids?
Okay, that's where my paranormal investigation skills probably went down the... Well, I know it's not my son because he hasn't got an Apple phone.
Right.
So he has no use for an Apple charger. I'm with you. It's... Yeah, okay. All right, it's probably most likely my daughter.
No, but she would have told you, wouldn't she?
I'm not sure she would.
No?
No, I think she would have happily let me believe it was a poltergeist or a transdimensional act of paranormal activity.
It is more interesting that it's a poltergeist. Maybe what you should do next time is leave a little camera running, because we would have broken 1 million views on YouTube if that thing had flicked out of existence.
Yeah, that's true. All right, okay, that's my next mission. I'll do that if it disappears again.
We'll have to get the ghost of Derek Akora in. Do you know, I've been looking at the Epstein reveals, and I was just hoping Derek wasn't in there. He isn't.
I really can't think he was playing in that league.
Maybe Sam is there.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we get straight into it?
Let's get straight into it.
So last week I said I was working on something that was scary and British.
Yep.
And it was one of those really annoying moments where I got a book from a charity shop. I was reading it down, and can you guess what happened?
There's a few that's going through my mind. You found out it wasn't based on a true story?
Yep, it was fiction.
Oh.
It was told as if it was a true story. It's fiction.
Oh.
So straight back into the cupboard of broken dreams that went.
So that was the Fargo version of This Is a True Story, right?
Well, yeah, but it was all done with... It was done with case notes, a bit like you described, but there was some notes from scientists and stuff in there. And I got suspicious and I started Googling these scientists, and they came up as, this is a character in this book. I'm like, right.
Right, okay.
Fooled.
How far had you got into the app? Right away?
Yeah, to the point where I was making notes. I was scanning pages with my phone and doing the OCR reading to turn it into notes. So
good. Let's do the glass half full. You at least realised it was fictional before we put it there. Or okay.
Yeah. So I mentioned it last week. And I thought this is the perfect way to do it then. As I was left adrift by that book, we're going to go into the Green Man and the Woodwose.
Right, lovely.
Because there are some amazing encounters when you really look into it, in modern day as well. Yeah. But you probably, if you're listening, you may, particularly if you're not from the UK, you may not know what the Green Man is. The best way of describing it, the way that most people first encounter the Green Man is being watched, the sensation of being watched, but not by a person, by the land itself. So we've spoken about nature spirits before.
Yeah.
This is very much like that, but in this instance, what people see, what is reported is, they look at a tree and for a split second, the bark and the ivy looks like a brow, the knot in the wood looks like an eye.
Yeah.
And you kind of blink again and it's gone. The sense is kind of liminal. It's like a threshold where our modern world meets something much older and maybe much less friendly.
I always think of those, the trees in Game of Thrones. The trees in Game of Thrones always reminds me of that phenomenon. I know they're literally a face, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is very similar. So let's start by understanding why people are seeing a man in the leaves. And to do that, we have to understand how he became etched into our cultural DNA, because he is. And the first great irony is that the name the Green Man is almost certainly a modern invention. If you walked into a 14th century village and asked the local stonemason about the Green Man, he would probably really have no idea what you were talking about.
Right.
Because to the medieval mind, these were foliate heads. They were a standard, if strange, motif in Gothic architecture. The name we use today isn't coined until March 1939, when an amateur folklorist named Lady Raglan published a paper in the Folklore Journal. She saw these carvings in Landogo Church, and proposed that they were the central figure in the May Day celebrations, linking them to the Jack in the Green and Robin Hood traditions as well.
Okay, so all those pubs that are called the Green Man came after 1930?
Yes.
In terms of name?
Yes.
Wow, I never knew. That's really interesting. You just assume, don't you? It goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. And
the motif does. It's just the general reference of the name. Yeah. So Raglan invented the Green Man as this kind of unified pagan deity, but the images she was looking at were thousands of years old. And that lineage begins with the Roman Empire. During the first few centuries AD, Roman art was obsessed with Oceanus masks. These are representations of the god of the sea whose beard was made with seaweed and hair filled with shells. Right. You actually see that on some food packaging. There's a brand of canned fish which uses this.
Right.
And as the Roman legions moved into Gaul and Britain, these water masks kind of influenced the local Celtic forest god representations. So the Celts were a tree people. Their world was vast, unbroken forest, and their gods were protectors of the wild. And again, this is something we've spoken about in terms of like the tree spirits and the potato king and all of that. This is something that they would recognise.
King Edward, I'm going to do the joke.
Oh, King Edward. Did we not do that? It's a good joke.
I've done that joke.
It is a good joke. When the Romanesque and Gothic periods of architecture arrived, the foliate head became a way for Christian masons to represent the wildness of God's creation. So by the 12th century, the carvings became quite visceral. So at Exeter Cathedral, for example, there were 70 green men. Each one is like is a masterpiece, and they're different in the way they are represented. But I guess we've always thought. I remember going around these churches as a child, thinking, "Isn't it odd to have this pagan influence inside the churches?" And you brought it up when you were talking about the naked woman in the church.
Yeah, the Sheila in the gig.
Yeah, that's right. So when you look at these, there's three different ways of looking at them. There's three categories, basically. So you get the foliate head. The face is entirely composed of leaves. The disgorging head, this is the most famous. So vines and branches erupt from the mouth, nostrils, even the ears, and it represents the word of nature, or perhaps the earth reclaiming the human form. And I guess I've seen a few of those, so they'd be quite familiar with you. They're not terrifying, but when you look closely, it is a bit weird to see a vine growing out of the face.
Yeah.
And then there's another one which has been spoken about as being called the bloodsucker. It isn't quite as dark as it sounds. This is where the vines appear to be growing into the face, as if the forest is consuming the face.
Eating it,
Yeah,
okay.
But these aren't just decorations. Some believe the stonemasons were like a part of a secret guild passing down pagan patterns. So it was kind of like their own belief system, and they were using this in a battle against the church's I guess, their dogma. But there's other people who believe they were a memento mori, a reminder that all flesh is grass and that we return to the dirt. And so in that case, it would be perfectly acceptable to the church.
Yeah, so it comes back to some of what we talked about last week, isn't it? That, whether it's the Normans or pre-Normans, which is the debate, it was almost this idea of appropriating pagan gods and symbols rather than trying to conquer paganism so to convert them to Christianity, you can either use force or you can appropriate and incorporate, and that's what we're talking about, right?
That's right. Yeah. And for anyone that's listening now and is thinking, are you just going to give me a history of what stonemasons did in history? No, there's going to be some actual
stonemasons podcast.
There's going to be some actual encounters with these beings.
Oh, yeah. Great.
So don't worry, there is some good paranormal coming up, but you just need to understand where this is all coming from.
Yep.
There is a darker theory, and this is what I'm talking about, where the Masons weren't just using their imagination. Some people think that they were carving something in the 12th century that people were actually encountering in the dark wood.
Right.
So while the green man of the church is a stylized symbol, the folklore of the Midlands speaks of something much more physical. This is like a cryptid, and it takes us on to what we call the Woodwose. The word comes from the Anglo-Saxon Woodwose, meaning wild man of the woods.
Right.
And by the Middle Ages, the Woodwose was no longer a nature spirit. It was a beast of flesh, blood, and ferocious strength.
That's interesting. So there's a progression. Is that what you're saying? There's a progression from it being...
There's a progression of belief.
Yeah, so the belief of it almost being fairy-like into a cryptid.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And the cases, so it goes from being sort of almost accepted as a legend into something that people are talking about actually encountering.
Right.
And you're right, it is very fairy-like, and it does contain a lot of the elements of like magical beings, magical, sometimes spelt with a K in that instance. But these accounts, they do vary, and they continue to the modern day. And there's one I want to tell you about from 2007, which blows my mind.
Okay.
But the earliest and most terrifying record comes from November 1292. Cannock Chase.
1992.
1292. Cannock Chase was then a vast royal hunting ground. Roger de Malden, the Bishop of Lichfield, was leading a hunting party. I know what you're doing.
I know, I'm not going there, Will. I am, sorry.
He was leading a hunting party across the chase. There are no Epstein files here. And they were pursuing a stag when a rock was hurled from the oak trees, striking a young hunter and knocking him from his horse. Right. A large, hairy, human-like figure jumped out onto the track. It was feral, ferocious, and possessed incredible strength, and it easily pushed over another rider. The bishop brandished his golden crucifix, and the creature retreated into the forest. The young man later died of head injuries. To this day, a carving in Lichfield Cathedral is believed to represent the very creature the bishop encountered.
Oh, that's like a really early artist impression of a paranormal encounter. Wow, I love that.
And what I love about this is because I do love the modern encounters of the British wood ape, and we've spoken about those. And of course, I couldn't help thinking about the case when we were talking about my relation who had the camera in the wood. It's not too dissimilar to that, but this is kind of creepy. But this one wasn't isolated. Throughout the centuries, Cannock Chase has been a hotspot for these encounters. In the 1750s, during the rabbit riots, I didn't know this was a thing.
Rabbit riots?
Yeah.
Oh, tell me about the rabbit riots.
Locals fought against the enclosure of the chase for rabbit farming.
Oh, okay. They weren't fighting rabbits.
No, that would have been good. That would have been good. Oh, as an aside, because when I was investigating this, I came up with an interesting riot that happened much closer to home.
Go on.
In Charlbury. So anybody that, I guess you wouldn't know Charlbury if you don't live in the UK, but you probably know Clarkson's Farm. Clarkson's Farm is based about 10 minutes from the town of Charlbury,
right.
Medieval town of Charlbury. It was the first place to have an anti-vax riot in the UK.
Really?
Yes, because the local farmer and the school had insisted that the people get some of this early vaccine because they didn't want their workers going down ill, and they were going to pay for it. And the locals were like, no, you're not enforcing us to get a vaccine. So there was a riot, and there was a riot in the middle of the town from one of the pubs, and the pub today stands as the Bull. Interesting. Anyway, that's an aside.
Back to the rabbit riots.
When locals fought against the enclosure of the chase for rabbit farming, a large hairy creature was reportedly captured as it ran from a brush fire.
Sorry. My brain just can't get rabbit riots out of my head. I
predict a riot.
Yeah,
rabbit riot.
If they were involving the rabbits versus the humans, you could see the humans going, they just replace their numbers so quickly. I don't know how they do it.
They go behind a wall, there's two of them, they come back out a minute.
We wipe them out, yeah. Sorry, they were let me get this right. They're rioting because people were farming rabbits, right?
Yes, basically, yeah. And they were going to stop them hunting the rabbits for, because don't forget, protein is pretty expensive back then. Yeah. So that's what they were.
Sorry, I derailed you.
The guards believed it was a poacher whose clothes had burnt off, but the man, in inverted commas, overcame 5 armed soldiers and vanished back into the woods. So out of this kind of foray of locals chucking stones at basically the guardsmen of the local royalty, the local... I guess, what would you call them? The local landed gentry.
Yeah. So, sorry, let me get the chronological order of this. So, the rabbit riots are happening, yeah?
Yes.
These royal people, is that what they are, or they're just landed gentry?
Well, they're sort of related to the royals, and some of them are religious, but yeah.
They're travelling, and then they get attacked by this hairy wild man.
Yes.
Somebody gets knocked on the head with a rock that's blown from the hairy wild man out of a tree, and then the hairy wild man disappears. The poor man dies. Okay.
No, nobody dies in this one. This is a separate one.
Oh, that's a different one.
That's a different one. Yeah, this one, the man comes out.
Yeah.
The guards go, what's that? It overcomes some of the guards, push past them.
Right.
And then disappears back into the woods.
Right.
And when pressed, the 5 guards, who are unhurt, they've just been pushed through.
Yeah.
They go, it was just a naked, hairy man whose clothes had come off him.
Right.
So it was a very unconvincing explanation, basically.
Okay. Right.
And you'll like this one. In the 1940s, a girl named Emma Waterson, known as, and if this was your nickname, you'd surely push back against it, the Woolly Girl of Ipswich.
I have nothing to add. That stands on its own. Hold on, say it one more time.
Known as the Woolly Girl of Ipswich.
That's all we need.
She had a condition called hypertrichosis, and therefore she was sold to the local circus.
Okay, this is taking a bit of a downward turn.
It's okay.
Okay.
It's all right. She escaped and was rumoured to be living on the chase.
Ah, okay.
A local poet later claimed to have seen her in a secluded spot, accompanied by a muscular, furry brute that pulled her after him into the thicket. So this is very much like, it's almost like a Pan encounter.
Yeah.
Although, in this case, it could be, people are suggesting it's a Woodwose.
Right. I mean, the other option is she did really escape from her tyranny of being kind of displayed to the public and took somebody else with her.
The Woolly Girl of Ipswich is a historical fact. Yeah. What happened to her after that is a bit murky. Wow. Yeah. But it's possible that she mated with a Woodwose.
I'm loving this, Ben. So far, it feels like, is this going to be an April 1st episode? We've had the rabbit riots and the Woolly Girl of Ipswich.
I know.
It feels like you're making this up as you go along.
Feels like a T-shirt, doesn't it?
And you abandoned the previous episode because you were worried it was fictional.
It definitely was fictional.
Yeah, okay.
But this Woodwose creature and its representations, it's more than a Bigfoot. It's a creature that seems to exist in peculiar gaps in history, is the best way to put it, because let me tell you about this. During World War I, German POWs kept at Brockton Camp on the Chase refused to try and escape. When asked why, the British officers when asked why, they told British officers they had seen the Wildermann. That sounded very Alan Partridge, didn't it?
Wildermann.
The German wild man moving in the trees at night. And they were more afraid of the woods than they were of the guards.
Right.
Now, we've seen the World War One and Two cemeteries in Cannock Chase.
We have.
You probably would know this, but prisoners of war camps in the Second World War, they were not terrible places to be, and the enemy was treated with respect. They had enough food and enough clothing, and the idea was that they would be repatriated back to their families at the end of the war. That's why they had proper burials and everything like this. So these conversations they're having with these British camp workers, it's not like, oh yeah, we're too scared, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, we're not going to escape. This is a proper, honest conversation they're having with them, and there's a reality around it, which is kind of, it's weird that they would say such a thing, because they would then be open to some ridicule. But apparently some of those English soldiers agreed with them and said, yeah, we don't really like going out into the woods either.
Can we stay with you?
Budge up.
So what I'm not confused about, but what's going through my mind is when I think of the Green Man, and I don't know a ton about it, I think of it as this kind of almost tree-like creature, but all of these descriptions so far sound a bit more Bigfoot, Sasquatchy, apey, don't they? They
do. I'm going to come on to some more which sound more Green Man-y. There's a possibility. So there's kind of two ideas to this. One is that they're two distinct entities.
Yeah.
The other is that one is you're seeing it in its transformational state. So what you're seeing is something that is entering our reality from its own parallel world and coming in.
Or like a werewolf switching.
Or emerging out of the woods. Because if this is some kind of wood fairy, as you describe it, that could be a way of it appearing, its face sort of emerging out of the leaf work, as it were. One note I did want to put in here, because it's relevant to our adventure there. In 1926, children playing on the Castle Ring Iron Age fort, remember we walked around that, they found a skull that they thought belonged to a badger, but a vet who examined it claimed it was the cranium of a gorilla.
Wow.
No gorillas were missing from any zoos. It remains a mystery to this day.
That's a weird thing to find, isn't it?
Isn't it just? Yeah. Now, it is possible that there is a sad possible explanation to this, that it was the remains of a disfigured child that had somehow been kept away from society, died, and the parents had buried the body there. Now, no carbon dating was done on this skull, although it was considered that it was not ancient. It was, within the last few years. Yeah. But again, we can't be totally sure, because nobody did, as I say, any scientific tests on it. Yeah. But a vet did say, I think that's a gorilla or a woolly woman. The Woodwose of Cannock Chase, it represents this savage green man, this physical reality that our ancestors would have feared. But we might be tempted to leave the green man in the 13th century or the 1840s. But the phenomena didn't stop with the Industrial Revolution, and it has changed somewhat in over time and in people's interpretation. So one of the most startling encounters in modern day is one of the most mundane. And it's a case that was investigated by Paul Sinclair and the Truth Proof team. I've spoken about him before. I do find some of his work quite enticing. This is the story of a man named Nick, and it takes place at New Malden station in the summer of 2007. Nick was 28 years old at the time, and he was sitting on a train heading towards Kingston. The train was idling on the platform, and Nick found himself gazing out of the window at what he described a scrappy little bank of trees, and there were some bushes around it just near a metal fence. I'll tell you what he said. I was just daydreaming, looking at the foliage, and then I suddenly saw it. About 6 or 7 feet up, there was an enormous face peering out from the leaves. It was roughly disc-shaped. I could see the dark voids of the eyes, the shadow of the nose, and a very large, leering mouth. My first thought was pareidolia. I knew my brain was seeing a pattern. I actually sat there smiling, enjoying the trick of the light. But then the feeling changed. It felt like all of a sudden it had seen me. The moment it realised it was being watched, the face went whomp. It was sucked backwards into the tree. It happened at incredible speed. It was like being pulled into a tube. And as it retracted, the entire bank of trees and bushes shook violently. A branch that had been sitting under its chin snapped back into the foliage with a physical thwack.
Wow.
And there was a physical mass there. It wasn't just a pattern of trees. There was something had taken the shape of the leaves and then decided to vanish.
Wow. What a great description that is.
Isn't it good?
Yeah.
And Nick said that the face didn't look like a human in a ghillie suit, you know, those hunting suits. He said he compared its features to the mouth of truth, which is the Bocca della Verità in Rome. The same Oceanus...
All right. Getting all highbrow on us in his report from the station. Oh, it's like the Bocca della in Rome. Yeah, all right.
I eat pasta sometimes.
Yeah.
This is the same Oceanus-style mask we discussed earlier. It's got this blankness and intensity and is very, very obviously male. And now I wanted to bring that idea out because that's something that Nick said about his encounter, and this is something that we know from the influence on the artwork, or we think we know on the influence of the artwork.
It's great that it's such a modern sighting as well, because often with these kind of mythical old age creatures, it's hard to find modern sightings of that. That's an amazing sighting. Great description.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is possibly the strangest description of a woodland woodland spirit I've ever come across.
And what's good about it is the fact that he goes, it's just pareidolia, and then it turns into something that doesn't seem like that, which I think is really interesting. Yeah.
Well, it's easy to get swept up in the romance of a forest god watching us from the trees.
Easy.
But I do want to confront the skeptics. So the primary argument against the Green Man is what Nick described is the pareidolia.
Yeah.
Our brains are evolutionarily hardwired to find faces. Our ancestors who could spot a predator's eyes in the tall grass, they obviously survived. And as a result, we are hypersensitive to the two eyes, one nose pattern. And in that chaotic environment of a forest, the brain is desperate to organise the visual data and construct a face out of it.
It's so weird you say this, because about an hour before you came round to record, I was standing by my back door looking out, and I've got a wall, and it had been raining, and I had a pareidolia moment. The bricks and all the way the moisture had kind of gathered on the wall really looked like a face. And I was going, God, that's a great bit of pareidolia there. So weird that literally an hour before you arrived.
Oh, that's strange. What was it the face of?
Well, my first thought was, this is weird. You know The Lion King, the musical?
Oh, yeah.
You know the logo for that? It looked a bit like the logo for that, like something out of The Lion King, or a bit transformery rather than purely human.
Oh, okay.
It was really, weird. Oh. Well, when we finished, it might still be there. I can show you.
Oh, is this like the picture of Bishop Brennan on the? Where was it? Okay, so the other explanation is a common one that we have encountered, and that is infrasound. And I came across somebody going, well, look, wind through trees creates infrasound, makes people uneasy. That adds to the pareidolia.
Yeah.
You see these things.
But my understanding, maybe it is wider than that, my understanding with the infrasound, there almost needs to be a kind of tunnel-like element to it, but maybe it's wider than that. That was my understanding of it. Maybe it's just the research that I've read, but I guess tunnel of trees could create it. Maybe. I
mean, it's possible, but this is all speculation.
Yeah.
But there's something that's quite interesting called the Raglan fallacy. So there's a historian called Ronald Hutton, and he argues that Lady Raglan's 1939 theory was a romantic invention. They point out that in many medieval churches, the Green Man is actually surrounded by images of demons, dragons, and sinners. Right. And to a medieval person, the vines coming out of the mouth might have been a symbol of the fall, a warning that man is corrupt and will eventually rot back into the earth.
Right.
By calling it a pagan god, we're basically imposing modern ideas onto a medieval Christian warning. But here is the counter-argument. If the Green Man is just a trick of the brain, why are the descriptions so consistent over 1,000 years? Why did those POWs in 1916 see the exact same thing that Nick saw in 2007? Why did the branches move? And the skeptic who says this is in our heads, well, I don't know, perhaps the truth is somewhere in the middle, like a psychic egregore. Perhaps the Green Man is something that is so deeply embedded within our desire to sort of fit in with our countryside that it just appears like that.
And again, I'm just putting my skeptic hat on for a minute. I could see why these legends go back so far if you take into account pareidolia, because seeing faces, especially in leaves and bushes where you're going to get ambushed, is it's been going on for thousands of years. So you could understand why theories came out early. That's my skeptic pushback on that.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that is true. And it's the same for anything which sort of goes into it's a liminal cryptid. The same arguments kind of apply across all of them, but I do think with the Green Man there is more of a romantic aspect to it, and it does remind me of Pan. One of the things that came up quite a lot, I'm just finding it now in my notes, there's a poem by William Anderson which basically is this line refers to the Green Man. The line is, I am the leaf that speaks, I'm the man that grows, I'm the memory of the earth hidden in the stone. Now, it's taken by scholars, and we don't know from the poet himself, but from people who study that poem, what he's actually saying is, the Green Man and nature spirits exist, but they are part of the human condition. They're not necessarily external. They're kind of they're not imagined either. They are something that is built into us that sometimes becomes visible and manifests itself.
Right.
It's a strange idea, but I do think it sort of makes some sense. There's this idea that somebody else wrote about, which is the return of the repressed. The Green Man is part of our psyche that remembers we're not separate from nature, we're made of it. And this theory sort of tells us that even in the heart of the city, even inside a stone building, the green world is there. And that is quite a compelling idea. I like that idea. But it's much more fanciful to think about these people, being hit by a rock by some kind of ape-like being, which challenges a master riding across the fields. And I don't understand what that person would have to gain by telling such a fanciful story. And also, I don't understand what would be gained from reporting that there's this naked, hairy creature who's pushed through 5 guards and caused quite a scene in the middle of the forest, and then the guards having to go, well, it's probably just a hairy man with no clothes on. I don't think they are necessarily the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking. There are a couple of things that I was thinking about. Well, I guess one thought and one question, really. My son was telling me the other week about albino trees. Have you heard about these?
Albino trees?
Yeah.
No.
So they can't photosynthesize, so most of them die, but some of them do survive. And they survive because the roots of other trees feed them. They connect with them and keep. So it's almost like this ecosystem within the tree community, whatever you want to call it, that will keep some of these trees alive who can't nourish themselves effectively. And I think there's quite a lot of examples of this, of trees sharing nutrients, and certainly fungi do it, I think, as well. I don't know, there was something about this story that made me think of that. I can't think of a direct connection. My other thought is a bit like you were talking with, the stone throwing entity, and because my limited knowledge or awareness of the Green Man, I almost saw it as this. It wasn't a malevolent entity. Is that what you found in your research? It's not like, a werewolf or a vampire is kind of predatory in its mythology. This doesn't seem that in any way. Is that correct?
No, it isn't that. So that's why I'm saying that those encounters with the Woodwose, that has become something that is threatening. But that idea of the foliage head is simply just a representation of nature looking at you. I think it's the visual representation of the nature spirit. I think that's all that is.
Yeah.
And that, and that is ostensibly a good thing, I think. There's another encounter that I'm going to go into that's along this line but slightly different, and it's documented by the brilliantly named Ralph of Coggeshall.
Yay.
In 1200. We're going to go on to that in the extra scoop.
Excellent.
Because that is a real life, breathing, well-documented wild man case in the UK. Is it a Woodwose? I'm going to have to let you make up your own mind about whether it was Woodwose. I'm 50-50 on it. But I do think that where I was going with this was so much of this research revolved around the chase, and it's so funny how you keep being pulled back to the chase.
Everything happens in Cannock Chase, doesn't it?
Yeah, and so I just wonder whether what we're actually seeing here is, because a large parts of it have been untouched for a very long time. I wonder whether those encounters where people experience like a werewolf or the most unlikely pig man or even the alien pushing the car up a hill, I wonder whether those are all expressions in some way of playful nature spirits, like Pan-type spirits. And one of our listeners said that we should do an episode on panic. And we've spoken about the origin of that word, which is experiencing Pan. And I've done an episode where people have come face to face with Pan. And I just wonder whether this is a different mindset, but you're seeing roughly the same kind of entity, because quite a lot of the encounters with the Woodwose, although Pan doesn't come out and like bash people over the head with stones or whatever, he can be both giving and taking, and can become terrifying, hence the word panic.
I also, the other thing that was going through my mind was size of these things.
Oh yeah,
because maybe it's the kind of Lord of the Rings influence. Those kind of tree creatures in Lord of the Rings are, they're the size of trees, whereas the descriptions, maybe it's just an assumption I'm leaping to, of these sightings, they're almost humanoid size rather than
correct
a giant tree. So yeah, interesting, isn't it? Like, how do you? Yeah.
Well, I think the other interesting aspect about it is that we have brought a lot of these ideas into a modern mindset. I mean, I spoke about that before, but I was telling you I was trying to get a clean copy of the Green Giant. Ho, ho, ho. Now, probably everybody is familiar with that advertising. But that Green Giant, it does owe its existence to the idea of not, a green man, entity overseeing. You think about what the Green Giant is. It's a large magical entity overseeing the growing of crops and keeping them safe. That is a very, very deeply ingrained cultural belief amongst the people that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I also think he might have some quality control element to his job as well.
Yeah, only the sweetest nibblers.
Yeah. He's not just watching over him. Wow, okay.
He never moves from that field either.
He doesn't, no.
Like, he's got all of those little helpers, and you would think that he would just like go inside at one point, but he never does. But I think if you go into any church and look at them, I think there'll be a different explanation depending on the historian who has made the leaflet to go with that church, and there'll be a different reasoning for why it was there. And I think some people will say it's playful. That's what I was referring to earlier. The Masons putting playful things in. And I think other people will say, oh, it's a way of illustrating a church belief with an understandable motif of a pagan era, and maybe none of them are right. Maybe it was something that was understood then as having a meaning, and now we're just looking at it with cold eyes of technology and not really taking in what it was meant to be back then.
And apart from those carvings, not carvings, or is it carvings if it's stonework?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I think it is, isn't it? Most of the stories that you've told, even the one with the guy on the train platform who sees the face in the leaves, they would all be consistent with a wood ape or a Sasquatch or a kind of British Bigfoot, wouldn't they? All the stories today, rather than this separate creature of the Green Man. So I wonder whether that is another route to go to. These Green Man encounters are almost misreporting of wood apes or Sasquatch.
Yeah, very possibly. And not just wood apes and Sasquatch, perhaps wolfmen. Perhaps it is all the same.
Yeah.
The same kind of thing. And that would also explain why, for most cases, we don't find, a joke about, scat or whatever, we don't find any physical evidence for their existence. That skull aside, I think that might just be a strange accident of something completely different, which is just in the wrong place at the right time, if you see what I mean. But and that idea that we don't find any remains or we don't find where they've eaten dead animals that have been feasted on, then that probably just does imply that these things are more spiritual in nature rather than flesh and bones. And again, I take it back to what is the difference between that, a fairy encounter, and a UFO encounter?
Yeah,
they're very, they share very similar ideas and very similar expressions. So I don't really know. But
the other thing I liked about your the story, the one of the guy on the train, is that I think gives it a little bit of credibility, because there you could argue that him acknowledging the pareidolia at the start of it, that's good creepypasta writing. Do you know what I mean? To rule it out myself. But then again, I was thinking, if you're going to do it as creepypasta, you probably wouldn't be sat at a station, would you? If I was going to creepypasta it, I'd go, we were in a kind of wooded section of track and there was an issue with the train and we stopped. You know what I mean? Rather, station is such an innocuous place to see that, isn't it?
I don't think he was creepypastaing it, because what I read out, I didn't, for copyright reasons, I didn't take Paul's video, but he's got an interview on camera about this, and he's perfectly, he comes over as being perfectly sane and reasonable, with no smirk on his face.
Right, fair enough. Wow.
So I suspect that there will be people here who live in the countryside of the UK who, and I do think this is a UK thing, I don't know why, but I do think that they will come forward. There'll be people who say, my old next door neighbour swears that he saw this, back in 1928 or whatever, that his granddad told him a story of. There will be loads of that. And the other thing is, there's so many, in the British countryside, there are so many different localised belief and folklore systems that are based around faces, the human face and the human form and nature. So something that happens in the Oxfordshire area, in schools they used to teach it as well, building corn dollies. So if you've seen a corn dolly, that is basically, if you don't know what it is, it looks like something out of the Blair Witch Project, but it is a human form made out of corn, and it is made around the Harvest Festival time. And schools used to make them at Harvest Festival. Some of them probably still do. And it's used as a thanks for the harvest. And it's like, it's almost like a gift back to the gods. Here's a thing we made for you and thanking you for giving us a bountiful harvest. Weird, isn't it? That sort of, you're giving a human form shape made of something that grew back to a spiritual form.
Yeah.
And this is happening inside a Church of England primary school. It's weird how all these systems, and nobody questions it. I mean, why would you question it? It's a nice little tradition, but when you really think about it, a corn dolly is not a million miles away from a green man.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Absolutely. And the foliate head.
Yeah, I love that phrase, foliate head.
Yes. Next time you see a dog rolling in the cut grass, you can. Yes, he's got a foliate fur.
I'm just amazed that the green man as a term was invented, 1939?
39, yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
It's incredible.
That is when, yes, to be clear, that is when people started to talk about it. There's nothing to say that people didn't say the green man before then, but to use it as a general term, yes, that's when it came. That's when it came about, and that's what I'm saying. I'm cautioning against, because her work has influenced everything we know about it and the way that we think about it. That's why I think you have to have that skeptical view of people going, actually, it might not be that, it might be this, it might be a number of different things. She has just painted one particular view, and because she was she had a good argument and people accepted it, then that has been taken as LORE.
Right. Still can't get the rabbit rights out.
The rabbit rights are brilliant. There's nothing particularly paranormal about the rabbit riots, but
what a thing!
I know.
I really want it to be a riot by rabbits. In my fantasy novel film version, there's the third act where the rabbits are nearly on the point of defeat from the humans, and for the big finale, they get joined by the hares who save them.
Oh, yeah. But you see, whenever I think about the rabbit riots, I just get flashbacks of watching Watership Down, which is the most disturbing movie a child could ever watch, and really violent rabbits in that. And I just realised I don't want anything to do with the rabbit riots.
I may have mentioned this, my favourite mug that actually my daughter bought me it's got a picture of a rabbit reading Watership Down, and just a sign above its head just says, "Effing hell."
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. That is how I feel about it.
Yeah. Wow, that was great.
Well, look.
Really good research as well.
Well, thank you. Not bad for the time I had left in the week. If you join us at patreon.com/TQM pod, you will find the extra scoop. And there you will find me talking about a different kind of wild man who might be the cousin of the Green Man. As I say, recorded by Ralph of Coggeshall. And it's a fantastic tale. And this takes place in Suffolk. And the brilliant thing about Suffolk is, all the churches there keep brilliant records. So we've spoken about the Green Children of Woolpit, and I've been to that church to see the records there. This one also has a local record. So we're catching up on that. And if you join us there, you also become part of a community. You get all our episodes a week ahead and ad-free, and you get to be on our Discord server, and you get to hear about stuff that we do that we don't talk about on the main podcast. Not because it's dirty, just because it's only for patrons.
Yeah, we're a bit more loosey-goosey on the extra scoop, aren't we?
Yes, we are indeed.
So next week, weirdly, I've had a similar thing to you, because I've got quite a busy week next week. I would have normally started working on the podcast like you probably do, after we've recorded this one. But because I got a busy week, I started early. I got 70% the way through an episode, and then I started doing something else. Not because of your reason that you found out it was a fictional thing. It's just there was a link in some of the research that I was doing that took me to a haunted house case from the late 1800s. And I just got obsessed with it. So I've parked the episode I was doing, and that's what we're going to do next week. This incredibly detailed and amazing haunted house case from the late 1800s.
How exciting. I love that. I'm looking forward to next week already.
Yeah. Come and join us.
Right. Come join us. And for now, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Take care.
Bye.
Are you the quantum mechanics?